Got the flyweights, Joanne Wood going up against Marina Marose. Both of them look pretty equal in the striking. I would say Joanne Wood has the better cardio, grappling.
This past week in MMA has been absolute chaos. A fighter just got hit with a suspension for using banned substances. Jon Jones walked away from charges that could have ruined his legacy. And one of the sport's most powerful figures, Dana White, made a decision that has everyone talking. Think about it. In just a few days, careers were shaken, reputations were tested, and headlines came out that nobody saw coming. A champion cleared his name, a young fighter's mistake exploded into controversy, and fans are left wondering what's really going on behind the scenes of the UFC. Why would Dana White suspend a fighter in such a public way? How did Jon Jones manage to get all charges dropped after everything he's been through? And what does this mean for the UFC's future when drama outside the cage is grabbing more attention than the fights themselves? Stick around, because we're breaking down every twist, every shocking moment, and every hidden detail that the UFC would rather you didn't notice. Dana White has built his reputation on being ruthless when it comes to discipline, and this week he proved it once again. UFC fighter Marina Marose has officially been suspended after testing positive for a banned substance. On the surface, that sounds like the usual fighter caught cheating headline we've all seen before, but this case is different, and that's why fans are split right down the middle. The substance Marose tested positive for wasn't some black market PED or sketchy lab experiment. It was actually something her doctor had prescribed. But here's the catch, she didn't disclose it to the UFC. And under the rules, even if the substance comes from a doctor, if it's not reported, it's treated exactly the same as if the fighter was deliberately trying to cheat. That technicality is what got her hit with a 1-year suspension. Now this raises a big question. Was this really about performance enhancement, or was it about setting an example? Dana White wasted no time making the situation public, sending a loud message to the rest of the roster. Rules are rules, and if you mess up even by accident, there will be consequences. The reaction from fans and fighters has been explosive. Some believe Dana was absolutely right. They argue that fighters know the rules, and the responsibility is on them to declare everything they put in their body. In a sport where careers and millions of dollars are on the line, one slip-up could change a fight, and that's why the system has to be strict. But others aren't buying it. To them, the punishment feels extreme. A doctor-prescribed medication isn't the same as juicing up with steroids, and many think Marose is being made into an example for something that could have been handled with a warning instead of a suspension. One fan summed it up perfectly online. It's not about what she took, it's about Dana reminding everyone who's in charge. And maybe that's the real story here. The UFC thrives on being unpredictable inside the cage, but outside of it, Dana White wants complete control. A high-profile suspension like this doesn't just punish one fighter, it keeps every other athlete on edge, knowing that even the smallest mistake could end up costing them a year of their career. But while Dana was busy cracking down on PEDs, another UFC superstar was walking away from his problems entirely. Jon Jones just got every single charge against him dropped.
Or we move the heavyweight division, take the title away from him.
Jon Jones called us last night and retired. Jon Jones is officially retired. Tom Aspinall is the heavyweight champion of the UFC.
Jon Jones has always been one of the most complicated figures in combat sports. For years, fans have debated whether he's the greatest fighter of all time or the biggest what-if story in UFC history. And just when it seemed like his legacy might be crushed by another round of legal trouble, everything flipped upside down. Jones was facing 2 misdemeanor charges that, while not the most serious crimes in the world, carried massive weight because of who he is. The first was for allegedly leaving the scene of a crime. The second was for reportedly making threats over the phone. For most people, those accusations would be bad enough. But for Jon Jones, a man with a long list of past controversies, it was a headline tailor-made to go viral. The court of public opinion didn't waste time. Fans, media outlets, and critics piled on, calling it typical Jon Jones. For weeks, it felt like his reputation was about to sink even further. But then came the twist nobody saw coming. Prosecutors dropped everything. According to Jones and his attorney, the evidence was clear he wasn't even at the scene that night. In his own words, "I never left my house. The facts cleared me completely." He went on to say that the accusations robbed him of his retirement moment, turning what should have been a celebration into another scandal. And Jones didn't stop there.
I saw Jones. We don't know if he was serious. Is he not retired anymore? Is he back in the...
You jump back in the pool, so...
Really?
Yeah.
Officially?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because they're not going to want to miss something like this. How sick is that for you that now you kind of got this White House event for them and it's like, I feel like this is what brings...
No matter who popped up or who didn't or whatever, we would have put on an incredible card.
He aimed his frustration at the system itself, blasting officials for rushing to judgment before the facts were in. To him, it wasn't just about beating the charges, it was about proving he was unfairly targeted because of his past mistakes. Now the conversation has shifted. Instead of debating whether Jones will face more punishment, fans are asking a different question. Is this the clean slate he needs for one final run? Imagine the headlines if Jon Jones makes his return to the octagon with no legal baggage hanging over him. A man once considered untouchable, written off countless times, suddenly free to fight again. But while Jon Jones is celebrating freedom, another fighter is staring down one of the toughest challenges of his career. Jack Della Maddalena's showdown with Islam Makachev at Madison Square Garden. Jack Della Maddalena isn't exactly known for backing down, but the way he's talking ahead of his fight with Islam Makachev has surprised a lot of people.
People say that because of that, Islam deserves some maybe pound-for-pound #1 rankings.
He's already the pound-for-pound #1 rank.
But is he yours?
Yeah.
Now you know, Dana, now you know. Honestly, I'm very happy because now nobody can say something. I feel like #1 best fighter in the world right now.
Most fighters look at Islam and immediately think about his suffocating wrestling, his ability to drag opponents into deep water, and his evolution into one of the most well-rounded champions in UFC history. But JDM, he's not buying into the hype, at least not when it comes to striking. In a recent interview, Jack explained that he actually finds Makachev's stand-up easier to deal with than someone like Belal Muhammad's pace. He described Islam's striking as traditional and predictable, saying that because Makachev tends to stay in one stance, he doesn't present the same kind of puzzle as other fighters. That's a bold claim, especially against someone widely considered one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. Of course, JDM isn't taking the fight lightly. He admitted that Islam is still the #1 pound-for-pound guy and acknowledged the challenge ahead. But his confidence has fans buzzing. Is this self-belief the kind of fuel needed to shock the world, or is he underestimating a man who has dominated nearly everyone he's faced? Adding to the drama, the announcement of this fight at Madison Square Garden didn't exactly get the hype it deserved. Instead of a massive press conference or slick promo package, Dana White casually revealed it on Instagram Live while flying on a private jet. The delivery was so underwhelming that Ariel Helwani openly mocked it, saying Dana looked like he was reading off a shopping list. Fans agreed this is a fight worthy of the biggest spotlight, but the rollout left people scratching their heads. Still, none of that changes what's coming in November. Islam Makachev moving up in weight to face a surging Jack Della Maddalena at MSG is the kind of fight that can redefine divisions. If Jack is right about Islam's striking being predictable, he might just have a path to victory. But if he's wrong, the bright lights of New York City could expose him in the harshest way possible.
You know, it's hard for me to talk about it, but you know, I'm just keeping 100. You know, I feel bad about what happened to Psycho Stu. I don't condone what my son did.
And speaking of being exposed, Rampage Jackson's son just landed himself in the middle of a controversy that has fans and critics calling for accountability. The MMA world is no stranger to controversy, but what happened with Rampage Jackson's son, Raja, has people talking for all the wrong reasons. During a pro wrestling event, Raja stormed into the ring and attacked a performer known as Psycho Stu. The whole thing was caught on video, and fans couldn't believe what they were seeing. At first, many assumed charges would be filed immediately after all. The incident looked less like a scripted performance and more like an actual assault. But here's the shocking part. No charges have been brought against Raja Jackson, even with video evidence. According to Ariel Helwani and other insiders, the indie wrestling circuit often handles problems in-house. And because of that, Raja may escape legal consequences entirely. Rampage himself fired back at the backlash, claiming the whole thing was staged, but admitting his son took it too far. Instead of clearing the air though, that statement only made things murkier. Fans were left wondering, was this real, or was it an angle gone wrong? Meanwhile, Rampage revealed that his family has been hit with death threats since the video surfaced, which shows just how ugly the situation has become.
MMA fighter Raja Jackson is reportedly being investigated by the LAPD after appearing to beat his opponent unconscious during a live-streamed wrestling match. Video shows Jackson being accosted by other fighters during the event at KnockX Pro Academy in Sun Valley Saturday night.
Whether or not Raja faces charges, his reputation has taken a massive hit, and the longer authorities stay silent, the more the court of public opinion is going to run wild. But while Raja Jackson's future is now uncertain, another former UFC champion is dealing with a different kind of fight: Aljamain Sterling's injury troubles. Aljamain Sterling may have walked away with a victory over Brian Ortega in Shanghai, but the win came at a cost. During the fight, Sterling attempted what he later called a spinning tricep attack, a move that was supposed to land like a spinning elbow. Instead, it backfired badly, leaving him with a painful grade 2 tear in his arm. For a fighter who built his career on speed and precision, this kind of injury is a serious setback. Sterling admitted he's crippled for a little bit and now has to rely on weeks of physical therapy just to recover. Thankfully, it wasn't a full tear off the bone, which would have meant surgery and possibly a year away from competition. Still, 5 or more weeks of rehab puts him on the sidelines at a time when the division is moving quickly. What makes this even tougher is Sterling's place in the pecking order. Despite beating Ortega, UFC matchmaker Hunter Campbell reportedly told him he's not next for a title shot. That news stung, especially for a former champion who's been fighting to prove he still belongs at the top. So Sterling finds himself in limbo, injured, not guaranteed a title fight, and watching contenders around him push their names higher. The road back won't be easy, but if there's one thing Aljo has shown over the years, it's resilience. And while Sterling focuses on recovery, another fighter has been making headlines for a very different reason. Colby Covington is back in the spotlight, and this time he's unloading on Dillon Danis. Colby Covington has never been shy when it comes to trash talk, and this week he turned his sights on Dillon Danis. Danis recently returned to competition at Misfits 22, picking up a quick submission win in just 15 seconds, his first victory since 2019. For most fighters, that kind of comeback would be a reason to celebrate, but for Colby, it was just more fuel for insults. Covington ripped into Danis, reminding fans of the infamous night where he was choked out by a nightclub bouncer. Colby mocked him as a bum and declared that even untrained fighters could handle him with ease. He didn't stop there. He flat out told Danis that he would never make it to the UFC and should go get a real job. Brutal words, but exactly the kind of fire that keeps Colby in the headline. Of course, Colby didn't only talk about Danis. He also weighed in on other fighters praising Darren Till's win over Luke Rockhold, congratulating Tony Ferguson on his victory, but adding that Ferguson should retire before things get worse. It was classic Colby, part fight analyst, part comedian, and completely unfiltered. Love him or hate him, Covington knows how to keep his name relevant. And while he's tearing into opponents outside the cage, one rising contender is focusing on a potential matchup with a champion. Lauron Murphy has his eyes locked on Alexander Volkanovski. Lauron Murphy might not be the biggest name in the UFC just yet, but the way he's talking about Alexander Volkanovski is turning heads. Fresh off his recent win, Murphy has been studying tape and claims he already sees holes in the champion's game. In a conversation with Michael Bisping and Paul Felder, Murphy described himself as a technician, someone who dissects opponents and finds weaknesses others overlook, and according to him, Volk has plenty. It's a bold statement, especially considering Volkanovski's reputation as one of the most durable, intelligent fighters in the sport. For years, Volk has outworked and outsmarted challengers who swore they had him figured out. Yet Murphy is confident that his style, combined with his attention to detail, gives him a real shot at exposing the champ. Rumors are already swirling that this fight could go down in December at the UFC's year-end pay-per-view. If it happens, it would be Murphy's biggest opportunity yet, a chance to prove he belongs at the very top of the featherweight division. In the meantime, Volkanovski seems completely unfazed. In fact, he was recently spotted in a playful moment, pranking a superfan by pretending he'd been hurt during a grappling exchange. It was a reminder that while challengers are lining up with game plans, the champ is still relaxed, confident, and enjoying himself. But Murphy isn't laughing, he's preparing, and if the UFC makes the fight official, December could bring us a showdown that surprises everyone. For that though, there's another event shaking up headlines. The UFC Paris card just went through some big last-minute changes. Fight week in Paris has already hit turbulence, and fans are scrambling to keep up with the changes. The first shakeup came when Fares Ziam was forced out, which led the UFC to shuffle the card. Now, Giannis Gemery and Harry Hardwick are stepping in on short notice, while another fight, Axel Sola vs. Reese McKee, has been bumped up to the main card. For some fans, the adjustments make the card even more interesting, while others are frustrated that injuries and withdrawals seem to hit every major event these days. But the drama doesn't stop there. Marina Marose, who we mentioned earlier for her suspension, will now officially be out of action for a full year. Despite her explanation that the banned substance was prescribed by a doctor, the UFC made it clear that the rules are non-negotiable. Her absence leaves a hole in the women's division, and it's sparking new debates about how fighters manage their health while staying compliant. And if that wasn't enough, Mackenzie Dern revealed she didn't even know her upcoming fight against Virna Jandiroba was for the undisputed title until Dana White announced it. She thought it was going to be an interim belt, finding out through Instagram that it was for the real championship left her shocked and extra motivated. From last-minute fight changes to suspensions and surprise title announcements, UFC Paris is proving once again that in this sport, nothing stays calm for long. But the biggest question still lingers. In a week full of suspensions, legal victories, injuries, and chaos, what does it all mean for the UFC's future? What a week for the UFC suspensions, drop charges, injuries, shocking announcements, and fighters lining up to take their shot at the top. Dana White showed once again that no fighter is above the rules, even when the situation isn't black and white. Jon Jones, written off by many, walked away from accusations that could have stained his legacy forever. Rising stars like Jack Della, Matadilena, and Lauron Murphy are calling out the biggest names in the sport with confidence, while veterans like Aljamain Sterling are left to fight battles outside the cage just to stay relevant. And that's what makes MMA so addictive in 1 week. Everything can change. Careers rise and fall, champions face new threats, and the drama outside the octagon can sometimes be even wilder than the fights inside it. The only guarantee is that the next headlines will be just as shocking as these ones. If you don't want to miss the latest twists, rumors, and controversies rocking the MMA world, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Join us as we break it all down week after week, because in this sport, the story is never over.